Good afternoon and welcome to the Demolition Daily live stream. I am your host, Mark Anthony. Today's show is officially billed as episode 38, but as we've thrown in a few ad hoc specials along the way, this is actually episode 45. And sadly, I sense that the end is now in sight. Now, when we broadcast our first episode of the Demolition Daily live stream series more than 8 weeks ago, we did so in the knowledge that this would be finite. In truth, I didn't expect to get past 2 weeks before I ran out of things to say or guests that were willing to come on. But the fact is that the daily live stream worked mainly because it had a captive audience of demolition men and women that were stuck at home during the lockdown. With sites reopening and those men and women now drifting back to work, that's no longer the case. Over the past week or so, we've seen the views, the comments and the interactions on this live version of the show slowly starting to decline. But thankfully, the overall views of each show has remained strong. So I guess that's people that are back at work now, catching up on YouTube or Instagram TV later in the day. But if this live stream has proved anything, it is that there is an appetite out there for an industry chat show of this kind. So I've got no intention of stopping entirely. But a return to work will unquestionably impact upon the number of viewers that are live at 3 p.m. on weekdays when this show is traditionally aired. I think it will also mean that guests are harder to pin down, and it will also detract from my ability to produce the Demolition magazine and to feed the hungry beast that is the demolitionnews.com website. But all that being said, we're not done yet. We've got guests booked well into next week, and I'm determined that we'll make it to at least 50 shows before we take our leave. While I will be sad to see these shows go, I'm happy in the knowledge that they're going for the very best reason. The industry is heading back to work, and it no longer requires my daily distractions. But rest assured, this isn't the end. It's not even the beginning of the end. This is merely the end of the beginning. We hope you can stick around with us as we transition to a life after. Now, our guest today is Rupert Craven of Auction House Ritchie Brothers, a company that knows a thing or two about transition. If you're anything like me, the name Ritchie Brothers calls to mind huge processions of used equipment, crowds of potential buyers packing the aisles, and crowded auction rooms filled with people. In fact, in my head, Ritchie Brothers is the very antithesis of social distancing. But as is so often the case, my head is entirely wrong. As the pandemic hit, Ritchie Brothers pivoted faster than an auctioneer can yell sold. Those large gatherings of people stopped, and the sales moved online as the company embraced the use of technology to ensure that it could serve its customer base, even during a time of global crisis. So let's get Rupert on the stream to find out a little bit more. Good afternoon, Rupert.
Good afternoon, Mark. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being here. Now, before we get on to the real crux of this, I saw on LinkedIn today, you guys at Ritchie Brothers have been doing a bit of demolition work yourselves up at the former Maltby Colliery. What's that all about?
Well, we've delighted to see some actual things happening. We've been very busy on it for the last year, really. We had a very successful 5 or 6 years at Donington Park, and pleased to say we outgrew that. We wanted a larger site. Where we could conduct our auctions for many, many years ahead. So we've got this site at Maltby Colliery. It's around about 30 acres, and it's taken, as all planning and processes do, quite a time before we can actually start doing stuff from there. But while we've been working away at home and keeping busy in that way, we've been delighted to see some actual things happening there. So they've been taking asbestos out of buildings. They're starting to knock down some areas and really getting our site ready. So that's going to be the rest of this year building it. So there's it's a fascinating place actually to go around, and the history there is amazing from what's been going on. But really for the last 6 to 10 years, nothing's happened there. So they're knocking down the remaining buildings, the old pump work sheds, quite a few of the things like the medical centre and some of the pit works that haven't been demolished many years ago.
Yeah, it's an incredible place. I was there a few months ago with Case and with Steel Wrist as well.
Yes,
and it really is an incredible facility. I'm really looking forward to one of these days getting back to actually get to see what you guys have done with it.
Well, likewise as well. I think we're all looking forward to getting back and seeing what's happened there as well.
Now, I said at the beginning that when I think of plant auctions, I always think of huge gatherings of men and machines. I guess those machines are still there, but you've moved away from gatherings of people. How did you manage to transition so quickly to online sales, given all that's going on in the world?
Well, it's vital. Obviously, sometimes businesses really have to be pushed in directions go from there. So we've been pushing online parts of our business really through from sort of 2000 when we started our actual rbauction.com webpage, and we actually started doing online bidding. Some countries and some places really take to it better than others. From there, I think Dubai is about the lowest. That's the most sort of on-site auction. In the UK, we've been running around about 70% of our bidders are online from that. And our business really is, majority of it's online, because all the machines, when they come in, they get photographed. Most of the due diligence and searching for machines by bidders is done online. People look at our website, go through the 60 or 70 photos of that machine, really do all their work from there, and they can bid online at a live auction. So around about three-quarters, two-thirds, three-quarters of our bidders are online anyhow on a normal auction. So it wasn't too hard to stop doing the actual live part of it. So we've still got some of the main things in place, that all of the machines are actually at our site at Maltby from there. So they're in one location. We're photographing them in the same way. We're putting them up online, but instead of having it live and actually being sold at that one time, what we're doing is for our next auction, for instance, we're opening the bidding on the 12th of June, and you can place bids all the way through, and then they start closing on the 18th. So in that way, it's actually catered very well for the market, that people can bid from home, from their laptops, from their mobiles, from their iPads, however they want to do, put the bids on from there. And if they're outbid, they get an email or a text message alert, and they can raise their bid, or it bids on their behalf until they win the bid as it goes through. And we've seen some real fascinating things from that. It's been very well supported. We've done Moerdijk, which is in Holland, Meppen in Germany, Maltby in the UK, and we've seen a really big increase on bidders going from that, because it's easier to get involved in. You don't have to travel, you don't have to be there exactly at the right time. You can get on and register the bid and place those bids as it goes through. So we've seen some big increases in registered bidders, and particularly first time new registered bidders as well, which is really encouraging going through. And we've all been, and everybody would assume that markets would have dropped in this current time, but we've seen some great prices and machines continuing to go worldwide. Luckily, we haven't had to stop movement of machinery, and we've been able to operate our yard in a very safe way by making sure that everybody's distance from themselves and they're photographing the machine, and it's quite a sort of soul working and keeping away from each other from that. So we managed to keep that going, and the trucks have been coming in and going out. So yeah, it's been a fascinating journey really over the last 6 weeks.
I guess one of the things that immediately comes up whenever you talk about online sales is, I use eBay, and I'm quite happy to give my credit card details for something for a £5 or 20 quid or something like that. But we're talking about, tens or possibly hundreds of thousands. What sort of system is in place for security and that kind of thing?
Well, as with everything, just looking at the machinery themselves, then obviously that is down to the bidder to make their own view and check that they're going right on that. They're actually looking through. We're adding videos of our machinery, which helps people check from that. And then our payment process, once they've actually won the bid and gone through from that, then that goes through on an electronic way, which is safe, and that's exactly the same as the way we've been using for everybody paying their own money across, whether they're either live or online. And so that system is fairly robust and safe in that way. So just keeping that, as everybody has to with cyber security and avoiding internet fraud.
No, indeed. I mean, one of the things that has struck me about all that's going on in the world at the moment is this: we are in a very sort of changed environment now, and I do wonder, will people go back to many of their old ways? I gave the example yesterday of my parents have switched to online shopping. You said you've had an increase in people that are using online auction systems for the first time. Are they going to go back? And if so, where does that leave Maltby? I guess as a storage place, possibly.
Well, exactly. And your auction sites are storage places, really, for the majority of the time. It's probably sort of the worst site for actually visitors on that, because any auction site, majority of the time, it's just machines coming in and going out. The actual visitors coming, and what you see of an auction site is only sort of 6 times a year, really, on that day. So in that way, it is majority of the time a storage site. But we're also doing quite a lot of work on machines, so cleaning, valeting, doing repairs, painting, that sort of thing, to get machines right as well. So, and we store for customers who are taking them far overseas through from there. So lots of changes going through from that. Whether it will come back in that way, I think we've seen a real change of people going online, not just because of this pandemic, but right the way through, that people find it easier to go from there. And I think we'll definitely change bits of our business so it can make it more accessible and easier, because that's really what we want to do. We want to make it as simple and easy and straightforward as possible going from there. And one thing that we've done is the auto extend. So instead of the lot finishing exactly at a time, if you place a bid in the last 2 minutes, it extends for another 2 minutes. And we had a large shredder that was going through waste wood shredder going through the Maltby auction, and that carried on for nearly another 20 minutes and doubled in price from when it should have stopped. Wow. To when it actually did stop. And I've got some fantastic auctioneers who really pull everything out, but nobody could stand there sort of for 15 to 20 minutes waiting for people to put their bid. And again, it's those people who really do want something, but they're unused to how the process works. It can really mean that they can take a long time to put the bids on and really pull the money out of the market in that way.
Oh, it's funny you should say that. I've just seen a comment there from Peter Haddock. Sounds like a good idea. It does sound like a good idea. As somebody that loses out on things that I'm bidding on eBay on a regular basis, they could do with adopting that.
They could,
I've missed out on some really good stuff over the years.
All the time, yeah. And the worst thing for any transaction is if you stop it before you've actually finished where the market value is from that. And with this auto extend, it really allows that to carry on right the way through. And we've had good feedback from both buyers and from sellers from that they've found it a good way to go. But nothing for our point of view brings back actually having a live auction. It makes you feel very confident that you've got a good auction around you with lots of people there, and we're well used to that. But sometimes we're made to change rather than wish to change.
No, well, I can only relate to that. One of the things I think that's often overlooked about Ritchie Brothers, obviously you think Ritchie's, you think auctions, but you guys are real experts in used equipment. Given that's all that's going on with the world economy right now, are you expecting a glut of used equipment if the economy takes a nosedive? What are you forecasting?
Well, there's no doubt there's a lot of machinery in the UK. We're highly compared to any other market really in Europe, there's a large amount of new machinery sold each year in the UK, and there's a lot of big fleets of machines around. Luckily, there's always enough work to go around for the time being from that. What is important is that there's plenty of other places around the world that want that machinery. So if there is machines to be sold and moved on, then there's plenty of places for them to go from that. We haven't seen any particular mass offloading of machinery at the moment. The utilizations are low when we speak to our customers in the rental world, but that's as you would expect, isn't it, with the sites closed at the moment. As they start going back, it's a bit like coming back after Christmas. We hope to see, and they hope to see the utilization rate rise as people get back, and we can only really judge that once we're probably sort of 6 weeks, 2 months back into it, and see where we've got back to from this point. Really, from there, we have done quite a bit of work with customers, helping them on valuations, looking at fleet that is either underutilized or too old or unnecessary. From that, that's something that really keen to do with all the customers and people in the market, is give them our valuations, give them our advice of when to sell, what the price would be, and how to sell it. Different options for them to sell with us, whether that's us clearing their finance or purchasing machinery or selling it in different platforms and moving it out the country, however that works with them from there. So there's a lot of that been going on, and we're looking for the good auction for the mid-June. So there's a lot of machinery in there, and quite a good range of machinery from all different aspects of the industry. So at the moment, nothing, no disasters, no massive problems, no huge machines coming as yet from there. Just a good supply, and from what we've seen, amazingly, from the end of April and the end of March auctions, good prices and a lot of demand still. So we just have to go really one step at a time and see how that continues.
You mentioned just now about how you work with your customers, or the sellers in this instance. Oh, excuse me. I was listening to your podcast that you did with Peter Haddock last night, and one of the things that you seem to have put in place, and I don't know whether this is a new thing or this is just the way that you always work, you seem to have in place now a system that allows people selling equipment to realise the value of that asset rather more quickly than perhaps was usual. Can you tell me more about that?
Yes, with our standard auctions, the people have got to deliver the machines in. We come to the auction. That could be a week before the auction. It could be a month before the auction. And then we pay out up to 21 days after the auction. So it can be a time to get the money through from that. What we're seeing a lot more now is, clearing finance. So we're happy to clear the finance for customers. We're happy to, once the machines are in the yard, advance money to them. So that's with us taking ownership of the machine and actually paying them the money for it, so that can be reinvested in any part of their business or back into other machinery. So that's something we're keen to do, keen to get involved in that. It's not all going our way in that, so we can actually look at it and really put money back in, and it keeps everything moving forwards from there.
I'm not going to get you bogged down in this, but I'm sort of preparing for next week's show, and I don't know if you're aware, and why would you be? But it's the start of Mental Health Awareness Week next week, and the theme of next week's Awareness Week is kindness. One of the things that struck me, again, listening to Peter's podcast, is the fact that you've been throwing your weight behind the Lighthouse Club at a time when they are looking down the barrel of a COVID-19 financial shortfall. Can you tell me more about that?
Well, yes, we've always been keen supporters of the Lighthouse Club, mainly attending their events, and we've done a few small, selling off lots at the auction to raise for the local Lighthouse Club branches. But the Lighthouse Club, from what I see and how most of the fundraising goes, is through very large events and everybody packed together in a room. So I think that's going to be an issue for quite a long period of time, a bit like as you were talking about with the auctions, everybody in the theatre from there. So it's something that we're working together with Peter and the Lighthouse Club to find a way that we can use our platforms, and we've got the marketplace, which could be ideal for some fundraising on there. So yeah, really keen to support that, and I think that will be something that we can add value and hopefully put some money back into the charity in that way.
Well, hats off to you for that. One final point, and this one's purely personal. I've mentioned Peter Haddock's podcast a couple of times, and you are a sponsor of his Supporting Construction series. I must admit, I've been really delving into podcasts over the lockdown, mainly to keep me sane, I think. I just wanted to understand the thinking behind that sponsorship. I mean, on the face of it, there's no real correlation between somebody listening to Peter doing a podcast and then popping along to an auction. Is this just another example of Ridley Brothers giving a bit back?
Well, it is, but also in a way that benefits us as well. We've had a great relationship with Peter and keen to do things with him and actually get our message out as well and support the wider ranging stuff that he's doing. So Peter's been doing quite a bit with geo positioning and working with Leica. And interesting enough, we've got a D6 from a Midlands environmental contractor, and that's got the full positioning system in the dozer. So we'd look at any different areas with him. He takes us into areas that we wouldn't normally go, gets our brand and gets our message out there, as well as supporting him and the interest that he's got, such as the Lighthouse Club, or one that's relevant to all of us in the industry, which is plant theft. Quite often we're the people who do actually catch that as it comes through, as we find machinery that could come into the auction from there. So it's another way of just adding more to the industry than just doing the auctions.
Yeah, now I mentioned that was my final point, but you've just mentioned plant theft, so I'm going to make that my final point instead. You are watching that very, very closely. I again, listening to Peter's podcast, that was one of the main things that came out there. What is it that you do? I mean, obviously you're checking machines for validity, but how far do you go with that?
Well, it is to protect our business fundamentally to go through from that. So we're always keen about that we are selling what we've got, and very clearly, whether that's through the photos, through the descriptions, that we're giving a real transparent, fair representation of the machine that we're selling. So that starts on us doing the right job, that we're getting the year, the make, the model, the hours, everything like that correct. But we also go a bit further on that, and we do the checks, we do the HPI, we find out where the machines come from. We look at that, making sure that it's not an insurance write-off that isn't declared. It hasn't got outstanding finance on. It hasn't been stolen, and going through from there. And quite often we do find that it has, may well be on HPI or something like that, but it's been not taken off, and we can go through from there. But just making sure that everything we do sell, so that buyers can buy in confidence, take it away and use it happily, and come back and buy again from us. And if we do have a problem, hopefully stop it before it's been sold. But if not, we'll make sure that we sort it out after the event. I'm pleased to say, this is literally 1 or 2 items a year through from that. I think one of the issues for anybody selling dodgy machinery through an auction is it's very visible now. Everything's online, everything's checked through from there. We work closely with the finance companies through from that. So anything that we can do to check or to help people go through from there, we will do. And actually, just in the last couple of days, we got an email in through from a trailer company, a transport company, where they'd had a 3-axle low loader stolen. And he was saying, if you can keep an eye out for it. So we've mentioned that around anybody that we can see coming in through from there. So it is good to share through from that, but also just to make sure that we check carefully on it and stops another route for dodgy machinery leaving the country.
Absolutely. Now, you've been very kind enough to give up your afternoon, so it's only fair that you should get an opportunity to give your company and your sales a plug. When is the next sale, and where can people find out more?
So our next sale at Maltby is on the 18th and 19th, but bids start on the 12th of June. So that's what's coming up at the moment. We've just got a brochure going out the beginning of next week for that. We've got a lot of machinery in there, some really nice young, low-hourred and young machinery. So that's 30-ton trucks, excavators through from minis through to 45-ton excavators, bulldozers, all the sort of construction machinery that you'd expect through from there. So that's our next one in the UK. And the week before that, we've got one over in Moordijk in Holland as well, which will have quite a bit of machinery from the UK heading out there as well, because some people do like to export it as well.
Fantastic. Okay, well, before I let you go, we've had a couple of comments in. Not surprisingly, Peter Haddocks has been watching. Thanks for the continued support, Rupert. Also had one in from Louise Carney at the CEA. Thanks for clarifying that, Rupert. I think she's referring there to theft prevention and that kind of thing. That was going to be my question to you. Excellent. So thanks for that. What else have we got here? Many thanks for listening to my podcast. That one was aimed at me, so I'm not going to put that one up on the screen. But Rupert, you've been an absolute star. Thanks ever so much for giving up your time today. Hope all goes well for the next sale, and look forward to actually seeing Maltby in its finished state at some point when the madness is over.
Yeah, well, we'll let you know and come up and see once everything's knocked down and it's in the full finished position.
Fantastic. Many thanks indeed, Rupert.
Thanks
all the very best.
Have a great weekend.
Cheers now. Bye-bye. Bye. Right, good bunch of comments there. Is there anything else there that I need to address? Oh, excuse me. Paul Boakes is here again. You've been here as much as I have, Paul. Coming up 3 months. It is coming up 3 months. I certainly didn't expect it to last this long. I was really expecting it to be about 2 weeks at tops, but then again, I was expecting the lockdown to be 2 weeks. So it goes to show what I know. Peter's back again. Great interview, Mark. Very enjoyable. It's because you're getting plugs, Peter. We know how this works. No, in actual fact, I do appreciate you turning me on to Rupert. He's a very knowledgeable guy, and I have to say, I think he kind of typifies what's going on in the industry. The people that are seizing the initiative to embrace technology, to work alongside people like yourselves, and also to transition in what is a ridiculous time of our lives. So yeah, good guest, and thanks for switching me on to him, Peter. Bear with me 1 second. I just need to cough again. I knew I should have had a drink before I came on here. Now, despite all that I said at the beginning of this episode about slowly winding down the Demolition Daily live stream and transitioning to a new format, we will be back here again next week, all guns blazing. As I just mentioned to Rupert, it is Mental Health Awareness Week here in the UK. For some reason, it's different in the US, but it is here in the UK. And we'll be kicking that off in style on Monday by welcoming back Danny Kearney of ProSafe Consultants, who was a guest on a previous episode way back when. And we're going to be talking about mental health awareness, but I'd like to delve deeper than that and basically go along mere awareness and look at how the industry needs to create better working conditions to address some of those mental health issues at source. So, when I was speaking to Danny to get him hooked up for this for Monday's show, one of the things that always strikes me when you drive past an abandoned car in a ditch and somebody has been out and put police aware stickers all over it, well, surely while you were there putting aware stickers on it, you could have done something about the problem. And that's one of my concerns with mental health awareness. We're saying a lot about the fact that we are aware of mental health, but what the hell are we doing to actually rectify it? So that will be Monday's show. Also, just literally just before I came on air, I'm hoping we've got confirmed that AR Demolition's Richard Dolman, the soon-to-be president of the Institute of Demolition Engineers, will be our guest on Tuesday. We should be able to confirm that on Monday, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, thanks for all those comments. Lots and lots of comments today, which kind of goes against everything that I said at the beginning of the show about comments actually declining. So thanks for restoring my faith in humanity. We will be back here again next week. In the meantime, have a great weekend. Stay safe, stay positive. Look after yourself, look after your friends, your family, and your colleagues. We will be back here again. I don't know for how much longer, but we will be back here again. Thanks for all your support and have a good weekend. All the best.